The sun was shining outside as Isabella's annoying alarm clock rang. She quickly turned it off to avoid waking her sleeping husband. Stretching sweetly, she silently got out of bed. Every morning in Isabella's large family started the same way. She would wake up precisely at 5 in the morning and quietly start bustling around in the kitchen, closing the door. Breakfast always consisted of delicious pancakes, freshly brewed coffee, and tea for the children. Then Isabella would tidy herself up before waking everyone, first the children, and only lastly her beloved husband. She adored Arnold and felt sorry for him. After all, he had such a responsible job. He was the head of the procurement department at a trading company. He needed rest, good sleep. In their family, there were 3 children. The oldest son, Jack, already in his senior year, the middle child, Martin, and the youngest daughter, Karen, who had just started middle school. Since the beginning of their life together, all household chores and child-rearing responsibilities fell on Isabella's shoulders. It seemed like she never got tired and managed everything. The house was always in order. The fridge was stocked with food, and on weekends, there would be baked goods. The house was clean, the children well-groomed, and Isabella herself looked good for her 38 years tall, graceful, with a fashionable haircut and a lovely figure. Her profession as a school teacher required her to look presentable, but none of her family suspected how tired she sometimes felt, carrying the weight of all household responsibilities. Despite her job, Isabella was not just a homemaker. Her parents instilled in her from childhood that a woman should be respectable and take care of the household. So, all these responsibilities were long accustomed to her. However, if the children appreciated all of this, adored their mommy, lately it seemed like her husband had stopped noticing everything around him. A serious crisis was looming, and Isabella couldn't figure out the reason. Today, as Isabella leaned over her husband to kiss him and whispered, "Darling, good morning. Get up. It's time for work. Breakfast is already on the table." She hoped for at least a smile, but Arnold opened his eyes and grumbled dissatisfied. Turning to the other side, "What breakfast? I want to sleep. Go to the kitchen. Don't stand over me." She bit her lip and left the room, sighing heavily. The children were eating, chatting, teasing each other. Isabella checked her daughter's backpack, packed a sandwich and an apple for her school lunch, and neatly braided her hair. Finally, her husband entered the kitchen. He mumbled, "Hello, everyone," and silently sipped his hot aromatic coffee. Exchanging messages on his phone, Isabella tried to engage him in family matters, saying, "Sweetheart, don't forget, Karen has her club today. Please take her. And Martin has French class in the evening. I can't make it today. I have a parent-teacher meeting. Also, check that Karen writes down her homework. We'll have to call friends to find out later." Arnold mechanically nodded, but everything seemed to pass through his ears. His wife seemed like an annoying fly buzzing around, and he sharply replied, "I got it. How long are we going to fuss over the kids? It's time for them to become independent. All right, kids, get in the car. We're leaving in 5 minutes. Where's my shirt?" Isabella handed him the prepared suit and tie. He dressed, absent-mindedly kissed her on the cheek, and said, "Don't expect me home early tonight. We have a corporate event. I'll be late." She sighed. "I understand, but I'll still wait and worry. At least call more often. When will I have some rest too? We haven't gone out together for a while. Maybe we can go to the movies this weekend." Arnold looked at her strangely and replied, "We'll see. Lots of work. You can watch a movie at home. All right, let's go." Isabella felt hurt for some reason. Her husband spoke as if they were both 70 years old. He completely stopped noticing her as a woman. It seemed like she was just an object of household appliances, some kind of robot. She had recently cut her hair, added bangs, and colored it. But Arnold didn't say a word, didn't notice anything. Before, he used to bring flowers at least once a month. called her affectionately, looked at her in a way that sent shivers down her spine. Where did all of that go over the years? Maybe she was overthinking it. Everything seemed fine raising 3 children. A house, what else did she need? But her heart uncomfortably nagged, suggesting that their family life was starting to crumble. Arnold took the kids to school and went to work, pondering, how do I gather the courage to tell Isabella everything? She won't forgive me, and she might turn the kids against me. But what should I do if I'm already tired of her? She cuddles at night, and I don't want anything. If only Caroline were in her place, I'd pounce on her like a lion on its prey. That would be a hot night. But for now, it's just a dream. Arnold entered the office and immediately saw her, the beauty, the goddess, the star from the sky. Caroline had joined their team recently. The boss introduced her as an intern temporarily filling in for an economist on vacation. She was a smart and ambitious recent graduate, temporarily assigned to work in the archive for a week. That's where they met. Arnold was filing papers and saw a charming sight. Caroline standing on a ladder, trying to reach a thick folder. How gracefully she did it. He stared with his mouth open at her perfect, juicy curves and slender legs in high-heeled shoes. He coughed. Caroline turned, nearly falling on him. He caught her just in time, and when he saw her angelic face, he was captivated. She smiled, apologized, but remained composed, adjusted her short skirt, and looked at him so invitingly. From that moment on, Arnold couldn't think of anyone but Caroline. She literally never left his mind. He seemed to go crazy. It was like an obsession. Caroline didn't hold back either. She deliberately found reasons to pass by, swaying her hips seductively. Arnold even closed his eyes, shook himself, twirled his wedding ring on his finger, and repeated like a mantra that he was the father of 3 children and 40 years old. They had a 20-year age difference. But more and more often, he found himself thinking that he dreamed of her, the unattainable goddess, and he didn't even want to look at his wife anymore. Today was a special day, the corporate event. Arnold hoped to dance a couple of slow dances with the seductive beauty and breathe in the scent of youth and freshness. This evening would be pivotal in his life, but Arnold had no idea yet. Caroline arrived in a beautiful, tight-fitting dress resembling fish scales. It sparkled and shimmered. She danced so that she outshone all the women in the room, and men stared at her and licked their lips. Arnold was lucky. He danced with Caroline 4 times. He melted, holding such a beauty close, feeling her young body. He felt like a young man again. And she even made eyes, looked so tempting, with sensual lips luring him in. By the end of the evening, Arnold was quite drunk. Alcohol gave him courage. When Caroline suggested he escort her home, he quickly hid his wedding ring in his jacket pocket and agreed. Then he checked the time. It was almost midnight, and he saw 6 missed calls from his wife on his phone. Conscience pricked unpleasantly. What am I doing? Isabella is waiting for me at home with the kids. Karen is probably still up. She always stubbornly waits for me. I need to go home to my family. But when Caroline called him, saying, "Well, Arnold, shall we go? I'm ready. Or should I call a taxi in case you're busy or in a hurry? I'm not imposing, you know." Suddenly, he thought, so what if I have a family? She'll be there tomorrow, and Isabella won't go anywhere. Why am I missing out on this chance? After all, I'm a man, right? Can't I relax for once in so many years? And he took the lady's arm and led her along the embankment. They chatted amiably, then admired the stars, and somehow ended up kissing. Arnold woke up at Caroline's place. It was dawn outside. The girl was sound asleep, sprawled across the bed. How beautiful she was. But the thought that he had betrayed his wife for the first time in his life haunted him. The alcohol had long worn off, and the pleasant night was left behind. But Arnold felt gross and miserable. Only now did he realize what he had done. He quietly got dressed and rushed home, hoping that everyone was fast asleep and no one would realize he had been absent all night. But that was not the case. Isabella couldn't reach her husband all evening. He had gone to celebrate the corporate event, and while the kids were still awake, she tried to distract herself with taking care of them and household chores. Karen barely fell asleep, but when the apartment fell silent, waiting became unbearable. Isabella couldn't resist and called her husband's colleague, Kurt, whom she knew a little. He sleepily replied that the corporate event had long ended, and Arnold, like everyone else, had gone home. Isabella panicked. God, where is he? What if something terrible happened? In an accident or worse? Should I start calling hospitals? And why is his phone off? I'll go crazy with fear. Finally, as daylight broke, the key turned in the lock, and Arnold quietly entered the apartment. Isabella immediately rushed into the corridor, burst into tears, and threw herself at him. God, you're alive. Where were you, Arnold? Why is your phone off? I thought something horrible happened. Can't you treat your loved ones better? She suddenly sniffed and recoiled. Her husband's shirt was saturated with women's perfume, and there were long brown hairs on his jacket. Overall, Arnold looked guilty. Arnold avoided eye contact and didn't know how to explain. Isabella, don't shout. You'll wake the kids. I had a bit too much to drink. Hung out with a friend a bit more. Then it got rough. I was nauseous for 2 hours. Sat on a bench. I feel terrible. You can't imagine. Shouldn't have mixed whiskey and brandy. Sorry for making you worry. Go to sleep. I'll take a shower. The bewildered woman stood in the doorway. A terrible suspicion instantly pierced her mind. Arnold never justified himself like this, even if he was wrong. It's not his character. And now he doesn't know where to look. He cheated. Scoundrel. If he gives me a gift after this, it means it's all true. What will happen now? If this is just a coincidence, it's fine. But what if I have a serious rival? And what? The end of our family. How could he? We've been together for so many years. I gave him 3 children, and now he's found someone else. Should I make a scene and expose him? Or, on the contrary, pretend that I believe in the stories about his friend? Well, disaster has come from an unexpected direction. Meanwhile, Arnold was showering, scrubbing himself with a loofah, washing away the traces of sin, and reproaching himself. What a scoundrel I am. Isabella cried all night, and I was with someone else. How about family? How about the kids? No, from now on, no more affairs. But at the mere memory of the night with Caroline, his whole body tingled, asking for more and more. It was like the craving of a drug addict. Arnold covered his face with his hands, letting it soak in the hot shower streams, realizing he was in deep trouble, as if he had sunk into a swamp. Pulled in by the charms of a young beauty, the husband entered the bedroom, quietly lay down, trying not to wake Isabella. He hoped she had fallen asleep. But no, his wife pressed against him, trying to embrace him. She longed for affection, for Arnold to say as he used to, "Come to me, my dear. I love you so much." But he gently pushed her away and whispered, "Isabella, I still feel so bad. Sorry. I'll get some sleep." And he immediately started snoring, sinking into sleep, while a nasty lump rose in Isabella's throat again. Tears and burning jealousy overwhelmed her. Everything added up. He was with a lover. He no longer wanted intimacy with her, didn't want to hug her as before. How painful it was to be rejected. She bit her lip, clenched her fist over her mouth not to scream throughout the bedroom. Why? Why are you treating me like this? Who is this woman? But Isabella held herself back, quietly crying into the pillow. She decided to stay silent and try with all her might to save the family for the sake of the children. From that day on, the relationship between the spouses worsened. They grew distant from each other. Arnold constantly stayed late at work, became cold and detached. even ignored the children's requests. All that could be heard was, "Karen, go to your room and don't disturb me. Please. We're not going anywhere on weekends. What kind of easel with paints do you need in the 5th grade? Take a watercolor sketchbook and draw." Martin, too, was upset with his father. When he approached him with a request, "Dad, I want to join a club. You know how much I love cool motorcycles. Can you help me with riding this weekend? We have an old motorcycle in the garage, collecting dust. Let's learn on it." But Arnold just smirked. "Well, why bother me? Sure, sign up. You're already an adult. Hang out with your friends and drive around. I'll give you money for gas. We used to do that in childhood, instead of bothering parents with trivialities." Isabella was indignant. "What are you saying? I'm against it. Martin is a teenager. He doesn't even have a driver's license and doesn't know how to drive at all. Do you want our son to get into an accident? Can't you spare him a couple of hours? I don't understand you." The man grumbled discontentedly. "All right, I'll teach him if they don't call me to work again." But Martin had character. He exclaimed, "Thanks, Dad, I manage. Apparently, kids are not your priority lately. There are more important things to attend to." The guy got dressed and rushed out of the apartment. The older brother, Jack, ran after him, calming his brother. "Why did you bother, Dad? Can't you see? Things are not good between him and Mom. That's why he's upset. Don't worry, I'll teach you, deal?" Jack had heard his parents arguing at night more than once, and then Mom crying. She walked around pale as a shadow, not herself. The guy noticed how his father had changed, and he heard fragments of their quarrels. So, he decided to follow his dad. He didn't want to believe that he really had a lover. Jack unconditionally loved his dad from childhood. He was his ideal, an example to follow. And now that image was crumbling before his eyes. In the morning, Jack heard his father say that he would come home late again, supposedly a meeting, and then a business dinner. The boy decided to wait in ambush near his office and see when Dad would come out and where he would go with whom. He even liked this detective game. Jack wanted so much to see his dad coming home after work and tell Mom that she was wrong in her suspicions. After all, Dad is not a traitor. He's the best. The guy pulled on his cap, threw the hood of his hoodie over the top, and prepared to wait. 4 hours passed. He was tired and freezing, but he didn't leave his post. All the employees had long gone home. Only his father's car remained in the parking lot. Finally, at 10 in the evening, Dad came out, but not alone. He was hugging a young beauty, whispering something tender in her ear, and she laughed. They got into the car together. He began to kiss his companion without hesitation. And then they drove away. Jack's face turned red. He even felt sick. So, Mom is right. And Dad has a young lover. And Mom knows everything and keeps silent. She hints to Dad, hoping his conscience will wake up. But where is his conscience? He betrayed not only Mom but everyone. Traded his family for this long-legged woman. Oh, God. What should I do? What will happen to the family now? How could Dad do this? We all love him so much. And he, it turns out, doesn't need any of it. The guy joined the neighborhood group for the first time and got drunk, barely making it home. He wanted to forget everything he saw. He wanted not to know anything. They always had an exemplary family. Dad, Mom, little brother, and sister. Jack never imagined that his father could do such a thing. Poor Mom. How bad she must feel now. Isabella was restless, pacing like a caged animal. Not only was Arnold still missing, but Jack had also disappeared somewhere, and his phone was off. What kind of punishment was this? God forbid something happened to her son. They are so impulsive and hot-tempered at this age. He might have gotten into a fight or gone racing on motorcycles. She warned him 100 times not to do this. But now, he doesn't care about his father anymore. He won't advise anything. just thinking about his mistress. It's not life. It's some kind of hell. Finally, Jack arrived, or rather, crawled. He was holding onto the walls and could barely move his tongue. Isabella tried to drag her son into the apartment, but it wasn't easy. She had to wake up Martin to help. Together, they dragged Jack into the bathroom, splashing water on him until he regained consciousness a bit. "Son, what are you doing? Why did you drink so much?" Jack sat on the toilet for a long time, retching and turning inside out. He had never felt so bad before. Isabella cried outside the door and lamented, "Jack, my son, how are you? My God, maybe I should call an ambulance. You have alcohol poisoning. What happened? You didn't do this just for nothing, right? Did you have a fight with a girl or didn't share something with friends? And it's good that your father is not at home." The middle son had long gone to bed, just chuckling that Jack got so drunk. And the eldest finally emerged from the bathroom, pale as a ghost. Isabella laid him in bed and brought hot tea. "Well, drink it. It will make you feel better. If you don't want to, don't tell me anything. I'm asking you, my son, never do this again. Promise." Suddenly, Jack took his mum's hand, looked at her strangely, very maturely, and quietly said, "Mom, I know everything. I saw Dad with another woman today. Know that I'm on your side, and we're all with you. But now I hate Dad. That's why I drank. I'm sorry. I promise not to drink anymore. But what do we do now? Why do you endure it? Why don't you divorce the traitor?" Isabella couldn't hold back, quietly cried, and replied, "Son, you're still too young and don't understand anything. Yes, your father is behaving badly now, and I feel very bad about it too. But we've been together our whole lives. We have a family. I think all of this is not serious. I don't believe he will leave us. And how can I tell Karen about this? What about Martin? Promise me you'll keep quiet. I hope Dad will come to his senses and everything will be okay. I love him very much, son, and I don't want to lose him. Life has its ups and downs. You'll understand when you grow up." Isabella felt a little relieved that her eldest son knew everything. Now she could talk to someone and cry. But Arnold was losing his mind even more. He rarely spent the night at home. Well-meaning colleagues from his firm began calling Isabella, telling her that he was having an affair with a new intern, not even bothering to hide it. Everything was so disgusting, so nasty. The woman lived between heaven and earth. Like a robot, she went to work, tried to pretend that everything was fine at home, but she was like a tightly strung string, losing 10 kilograms in just a month due to nervous tension. Their family was falling apart before her eyes, and Isabella couldn't do anything about it. Then one evening, Arnold, like a coward, came home late and quietly began packing his things like a rat. Isabella asked anxiously, "What happened, Arnold? Where are you going? Maybe we should finally talk openly. Will you stop lying to me and tell me, finally, who is she? Or do you think I'm blind?" The husband sat on the couch, holding his head in his hands. "I'm leaving, Isabella, forever. We're getting divorced. I fell out of love with you a long time ago. We've been together for many years, got tired of each other. And Caroline, she's wonderful. I can't live without her. I'm just going crazy. Understand? Next to her, I felt young again. And please, let's not have scandals. I've already decided everything." Isabella swallowed her tears. "But what about our children? Have you thought about them? Come tomorrow and explain everything to them yourself. Look them in the eyes and tell them you don't love them anymore and you're leaving." Arnold screamed, "What about the kids? Why are you saying that? I love them, but they're grown up now, and they'll manage without me. Caroline, my girlfriend, is pregnant. It happened. We're having a baby together. You understand? Explain everything to the kids yourself. You're a teacher. You'll find the right words. Sorry, But I don't need hysterics. Let's part peacefully. Why torture each other? Isabella raised her head proudly. I'm not going to beg you to stay. You made your choice. But know this, there's no turning back. I'll never accept you. The woman went to the bathroom, closed the door, turned on the water, and began to cry, long and hysterically. Only when the door closed behind her husband, she found the strength to come out. The cabinets were empty. The apartment was a mess. She rushed to the closet where their family savings were kept. Empty. Arnold took all the money, and it was a disaster. After all, a teacher's salary is not very high, and Isabella couldn't imagine how she would survive alone. After all, her husband was the main breadwinner in the family. In the morning, during breakfast, the woman informed everyone, "Kids, we have some bad news. Dad left home for good to another family. Now it's just us, so we'll have to tighten our belts for a while. Sorry, Martin, but we won't be buying you a new motorcycle for now. And Karen, we'll have to postpone the amusement park. But I'll try to come up with something. Maybe take up tutoring. You should know that your father loves you, and you can see him if you want." Karen cried. She didn't want it to be this way. She loved her dad a lot, and it hurt that Daddy doesn't live with them anymore. Jack clenched his fists and said firmly, "So, Karen, don't cry. Let him go wherever he wants. We'll live without him. I'm the man of the house now. Mom, don't worry. I won't stay idle. I'll do everything around the house. I'll get a courier job or distribute flyers on weekends. We'll buy you, Karen, an easel, and later a motorcycle. We need to stick together now. Support each other. We're a family." Isabella was so grateful to her son for the support. It even made her feel lighter. Martin was quiet and said, "We're with you, Mom. We won't let you down, and Karen won't either." She hugged all three of them and kissed them, even wiping away a tear. "Thank you, my dears, my best children. Together, we'll get through everything, I'm sure. Well, finish your breakfast and off to school. Now we'll have to take the subway. Nothing to be done." Initially, Isabella found it very tough. Money was tight, and they literally dissolved. She saved on herself, stopped buying cosmetics, started coloring her hair and doing her manicure at home. She learned to cook hundreds of potato dishes, and Jack always helped her. Now, he distributed flyers near the subway on weekends. At least they had enough for school lunches and pocket expenses. Martin wasn't idle either. He always enjoyed tinkering with things. He could easily fix an alarm clock or mend a wallet. And he even enjoyed spending time searching for the cause of a malfunction. Soon, Isabella formed a tutoring group. It was different money, and life started to improve. In the evenings, they enjoyed watching interesting movies together or entertained the sad Karen, who suffered a lot from her parents' breakup. The boys kept everything to themselves, supported their mom, and didn't let her cry. Their family became more united than ever before. Now, during tea, they discussed family problems at a family council and jointly thought about how to cope and move on. Isabella was too busy with all these concerns. She didn't even have time to suffer. Besides, her character was such that if she closed the door in her heart, there was no turning back. And what about Arnold? He moved to Caroline's apartment, which was luxurious because the girl was not poor. Her father was a city official. The first week seemed like a paradise for lovers. Hot nights, champagne, and a lazy lifestyle since both took time off from work. But then the same routine began. It turned out that Caroline couldn't and didn't want to cook anything. She didn't hurry to clean up either. It was easier for her to call a cleaner once a week, and mountains of dirty dishes and dust didn't bother her at all. Now Arnold had to wash and iron shirts, and he had never done anything around the house before. All these household chores and difficulties began to irritate him. He started expressing his dissatisfaction with Caroline. "Dear, listen, this won't do. We're living together now, like a family. and you're not doing anything around the house. I understand you're young and inexperienced in these matters, but maybe it's time to start learning something." The girl got offended and pouted her full lips. "Why are you giving orders in my apartment? I'm pregnant, in case you forgot. I need to rest, not work like a horse. Or do you want me to get nervous and tired? Maybe you don't love me at all. Just say it. You have hands, too, by the way. You could clean up yourself. And anyway, I love coffee with marshmallows in bed." Arnold almost choked with such audacity. He was almost shouting, "My dear, pregnancy is not an illness. My wife gave birth to 3 children and managed everything around the house. And she worked too." Caroline was indignant. "If everything was so wonderful with her, why did you leave her? If you don't like it, go back. I can raise the baby on my own. I live the way I'm used to, and I'm not going to change for anyone." Arnold himself was not happy that he had rashly left Isabella. In a month, they faced a tough divorce process, insisted on by his ex-wife, but he had no way out. Caroline was expecting a child, and he couldn't leave her now. However, he liked the new family life less and less, and after 3 weeks, a wild scandal broke out. Caroline went to the salon for a manicure, and Arnold decided to do some cleaning. He decided to tidy up her desk, stacked papers neatly, and opened a drawer where he noticed a folder tucked away in the corner. He didn't even know why he opened it, just out of curiosity. Inside were ultrasound results and a gynecological certificate. What he read shocked him. Caroline was not pregnant at all. It was just a regular cycle glitch. That's it. What news? It turns out that all this time, she shamelessly lied to him, knowing the truth, forced him to leave his family, and blackmailed him with pregnancy. Arnold grabbed his head and began to scold himself with the last words. "Idiot! How could I believe this crazy woman? What did I trade my family for? No, I have to correct my mistakes before it's too late." Caroline came home satisfied, spinning in front of the mirror. "Darling, how do you like it? The hairstyle seems super to me. Just look at the trendy manicure they did for me." Arnold silently handed her that same certificate and watched her reaction. She paled, fell silent for a moment, but immediately pulled herself together and, with her typical impudence and self-assurance, went on the offensive. "What? Were you snooping in my things? Unheard of. Yes, I'm not pregnant. So what? But I really thought it was so. There was a decent delay. How does that change anything? We love each other. We'll have a baby later if we want. Now come to me, darling. I'll pamper you as you like. Let's forget about this annoying misunderstanding." She reached out to Arnold, but he sharply grabbed her hand, shaking. "What a despicable person you are. I believed that you were pregnant, and because of that, I left my family and abandoned my children. And you shamelessly lied to me. Don't you have any conscience?" Caroline flared up. "Who's talking about conscience here? And anyway, you're annoying me. I thought we would have easy, non-committal relationships, and here you are trying to lecture me. We are breaking up. Go back to your wife with many children. And I have a whole life ahead. I'll find a better companion for myself." They had a heated argument, and Arnold packed his things and moved in with his elderly mother, nowhere else to go. The poor woman was completely unaware of her son's situation, and upon learning about it, scolded him like a schoolboy but accepted him since there was nowhere else to turn. She warned, "You know, son, make peace with Isabella however you can, even if you have to beg her on your knees for forgiveness. It's shameful to leave 3 children for some fleeting infatuation. I can imagine what the children think of you now. It's terrible." Arnold started calling Isabella, but she wouldn't answer, and his son also quickly dismissed his calls. So, he ambushed the older one, Jack, near the school, and like a mischievous puppy, began questioning him. "Hey, son, how are you guys managing without a father? Is Mom really upset? I've been thinking, maybe I should come back. Well, things got confused. We're men. You should understand. What do you think? I love you guys. Jack frowned, clenched his fists, and then replied sharply, we don't need traitors. Don't look for me anymore. I don't want to see you. He pulled on his hood and walked away with a group of boys. Arnold realized that it was serious, and the kids hated him, so it wouldn't be easy to just come back. But a new plan began to form in his mind. Isabella even found some positives in her newfound single life. No need to iron endless suits and shirts, cater to her husband, endure his moods when Arnold was in a bad mood. She got along well with the kids, gave private lessons twice a week after school, and their financial situation improved. They weren't rich, but they weren't struggling either. One day, in her class where she was the leader, a new boy named Gerald, a 5th grader, came in. He was poorly dressed. His backpack was quite worn out, and he clearly came from a disadvantaged family. However, the boy turned out to be polite, intelligent, and well-read. Other kids tried to tease him, but Isabella sternly put them in their place and gradually tried to find out why his family was struggling. Soon, Gerald began to trust her, didn't keep silent anymore, and told her everything. We used to live comfortably when I was very little. My dad is a builder, always earned well, and my mom, she's gone for a long time. 6 months ago, my dad had a work accident. Now he can't get out of bed. He's disabled. Now we're surviving with my dad as best we can. I run to him after school, feed him, then to the market, help sort vegetables, and carrot crates. I do homework at night, so I never get enough sleep. They pay me a little, and my dad's disability pension, that's all the money we have. But can you live on that? Tears welled up in Isabella's eyes. She felt so sorry for Gerald. Suddenly, she asked, can I come to your house tomorrow after work? Will you write me the address? I want to talk to your dad. Maybe I can help somehow. Are you okay with that? The boy looked embarrassed and replied, come, of course, I'll be waiting for you tomorrow. Any help is welcome. Thank you so much for listening. At home, during dinner, Isabella honestly told her children about Gerald, his problem, and concluded, kids, I wanted to discuss something with you. Tomorrow, I plan to visit Gerald's home, meet his father. I'd like to help him in any way I can. Just imagine, our father left us, and it's tough for this boy who's now alone with his troubles. He's in the 5th grade, taking care of his sick father. He also works at the market. I feel so sorry for him, poorly dressed and not even properly groomed. Jack agreed. Right, Mom. We should help the guy. I was thinking, Martin and I have a lot of stuff that's almost new but small for us. And the backpack that my brother didn't like, with a tag still on it, is just lying around unused. We can give it to this boy. We'll meet him with Martin tomorrow, make friends. And you, go find out everything. We can't leave the kid in trouble. Isabella hugged her children again. Thank you, my dears, for hearing me out and supporting me. It means a lot to me. I'll go sort through the things. I think the boy could use them. The next day, after school, Isabella went to Gerald's place. Gerald opened the door right away. She handed him a huge bag. This is for you and your dad, Gerald. From our family, and with a pure heart. We're in good health. And there's potato casserole in the container with meat. Have it yourself and feed your dad. The boy was both embarrassed and very happy. He led Isabella to the bedroom. On the bed lay an unshaven man around 40. He looked at his son and the guest with surprise. The child introduced the woman. Dad, meet Isabella, my class teacher. She came to see how we live and to meet you. You can talk yourselves, and I'll go unpack the gifts. That backpack is so cool. I'll take it to school tomorrow. And then I'll feed you. The casserole is cooling down. The boy ran away, and Isabella sat down. The man was shy, covering his legs with a blanket, and asked, "My name is Bernard. As you can see, this is how we live. Thank you for coming, for delighting my son with gifts. Unfortunately, I can't help him now, and it's nauseating. But tell me honestly, you don't visit all your students, do you? Why did you decide to come to Gerald?" Isabella replied seriously and honestly, "You're right. If I visited everyone, I wouldn't see my own children. I have 3 of them. I've been in school for many years, with extensive experience and a keen eye. A class teacher for a child is not just an ordinary teacher. It's a mother, a nanny, a friend, and an advisor. At least, that's what one should strive for. That's why I try to understand not only the curriculum, but also the relationships of my students. Gerald joined our class recently. It's tough for him. He's the new kid. The boy is smart and clever. He tries hard, and his grades are good. But his eyes killed me. They show a kind of doom and hopelessness. I understand that such eyes only appear when a child is in complete despair or afraid of something. So, I decided to find out everything myself. Don't think I came out of idle curiosity or to gossip later. I genuinely want to help Gerald in any way I can, and you too if possible. Tell me, what happened to you? How did it happen that the company didn't pay for your treatment and left you at the mercy of fate?" Bernard sighed and began to tell his story. "I already have a risky profession as it is. I'm a high-altitude worker. I always double-check everything 100 times, you understand? And then this madness happened. I was descending, and the construction cradle snapped and collapsed. You've probably seen it many times. Builders use these lifts to insulate and plaster building facades. Luckily, the height wasn't significant. I only heard a loud metal crunch. And then, it was like a dream. Turns out, the equipment had been faulty and decommissioned for a while. The brakes didn't work, but who would decommission it? So, they squeezed the last bit out of the lift, even though it was a glaring violation. And when the accident happened to me, everyone got scared. The management immediately started persuading me, saying I need to get back on my feet. They'll cover everything. Just confirm that it's your fault you didn't check the cables and didn't service the brake system. Well, I was a fool to believe and agreed. They threw me away. They didn't pay anything and forgot about me like unwanted ballast. So now, my son and I are struggling. I feel like a burden to him," Isabella exclaimed. "What are you saying? Gerald loves you so much. He's working hard, running to the market to survive. Don't dare to give up. Hear me. There's always a way out. Give me all your documents, and tomorrow I'll go to your management. Try to get to the bottom of the truth. It's outrageous to abandon a person, an employee, and forget about him. Give me the names of those involved." Bernard sighed. "It's useless. There's no dealing with them. I'm telling you for sure." Isabella briefly shared her own children's situation and her sad story. Then she added, "Cheer up. I thought it was the end of life too. But it turns out you can endure everything in the world if you have children and family. And you have a family. Okay, I'll go home. Expect good news." As she was leaving, she intentionally left some money on the hallway table for Gerald, and firmly decided within herself that she would achieve justice and help Bernard no matter what. Isabella went to the company, found the deputy she was looking for, and accused him. She argued with him for an hour, but he pretended that Bernard was solely at fault. Then he kicked her out of his office. The woman was so upset that she cried right in the lobby. Just then, a tall, gray-haired man entered the reception, saw Isabella, and suddenly asked, "Excuse me, is something wrong? Do you need help? Are you an employee here?" "I'm Eric, the director of the construction firm." In frustration, Isabella exclaimed, "God forbid working in a place where people are maimed and abandoned. You have no conscience." A man became disabled due to the deputy's negligence, and everything was swept under the rug. and he has a little son, and there's no one to help them at all. But why am I telling you this? You bourgeois don't care about ordinary mortals. The man suddenly said, okay, I may not have understood much yet, but let's go to my office. We'll figure it out together. Isabella wiped away her tears and followed him. There was nothing to lose, and maybe something would be resolved. Isabella told the director everything again, more calmly and thoughtfully, handed over Bernard's documents and medical history. He read through them, nodding. Then he asked, the situation is certainly sad, and the most crucial thing is I wasn't aware of it. According to the documents, Bernard resigned voluntarily. So, I'll have to personally investigate everything, and I promise that all individuals involved in this egregious case will be punished severely. But tell me, who are you, Bernard? His wife, sister? Why do you care so much about him? Isabella was embarrassed. No, I'm his son's teacher. I accidentally learned about their tragedy and decided to help. Please, sort this out thoroughly. It shouldn't be that a person with a disability is abandoned by everyone. He worked for you his entire life. A week passed. One day, Gerald ran to school, joyous, and first thing he approached his teacher, looking her in the eyes. Thank you, Isabella. I'm so happy. Men from my dad's work came, sorted everything out, and paid my dad a substantial sum. Now, we definitely have enough for the surgery. It's all thanks to you. Could you come to our place today? My dad also wants to thank you. Isabella, of course, went. Gerald was bustling in the kitchen, pouring soup into bowls. Isabella, wash your hands. I'll be the one to feed you. I can only cook soup, but it's hot and fresh. Sit down. My dad and I were eagerly waiting for you. The woman entered the bedroom. Bernard was radiant, almost in tears, thanking her. Isabella, thank you so much. I don't know how to express my gratitude. I had lost hope that they would help me, but you made it happen. They came themselves, apologized, and transferred the amount for the surgery and rehabilitation. I've already contacted the hospital. They'll admit me on Monday. Isabella became concerned. But what about Gerald? Who will take care of him during this time? Bernard hesitated. Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you. He's a bit too young to stay home alone. I worry about him. Isabella immediately nodded. I'll take Gerald with me for a while until you recover. We'll check on you. My boys won't mind, and it'll be more fun for him. Don't worry. Now all the bad times are behind you. You'll be working on your own soon. Bernard took her hand and said tenderly, you're extraordinary, like a guardian angel in our family. You appeared so unexpectedly and sheltered us from disaster. Isabella was genuinely pleased. Bernard appealed to her, honest, decent, strong, a real man. He lost his wife and is raising his son on his own. She took Gerald home, and her kids welcomed him warmly, getting along well. Meanwhile, a challenging day awaited Isabella, the divorce court hearing. She was nervous from the early morning, took a day off from work, sent the kids to school, and spent a long time dressing up meticulously. She wanted to look her best, hoping that Arnold would see her and regret what he had lost. However, when she entered the courthouse, she was stunned. Her ex-husband stood there in a suit, looking sharp, with a huge bouquet of her favorite crimson roses. He approached her, handed her the bouquet, and solemnly said, "Hello, Isabella. You look stunning. Listen, I admit I was wrong, but have realized that I want to be with you, at home, with our beloved children. Let's make amends. Forget everything, and let's move forward and live happily. I've missed you so much. So, shall we go from here?" Isabella was shocked by such audacity. She threw the flowers in his face and replied, "No way. You made your choice. I warned you that if you leave for your mistress, I won't take you back. So, forward to a new and happy life. I won't interfere. And what's the matter? Is Caroline unwilling to iron shirts and cook lunches? doesn't bring you coffee and bed. Right. One bed isn't enough for both. Well, I've got news to it already. Sorry. The kids don't want to see you either. So please proceed to the courtroom. My lawyer is already waiting for us. The man opened his mouth. How? You hired a lawyer? Does that mean you've definitely decided? Isabella smiled. Oh, did you think I cry and long for you? You guessed wrong. You taught me to survive alone, to rely only on myself. And I succeeded. But going back to reunite with a traitor and waiting for you to betray me again, I'm not going to. In court, Arnold's mood worsened even more. It turns out, as a mother of many children, she was entitled to their apartment. Moreover, when they announced the amount of alimony he would have to pay each month, he felt sick. Half of his salary would go towards 3 children. Isabella kept herself composed, didn't shed a tear. She genuinely felt lighter inside, letting go of her past. However, these weren't all the troubles for Arnold. Caroline harbored resentment towards him since they parted ways with a scandal, exchanging many unpleasant words. She stole a large sum of money from his safe. He was supposed to use it to buy a batch of goods for the company. Paying off that same day, she left the country with a new admirer. Arnold had inadvertently told her the code once, boasting, and even showed her how to open it. Now, he owed the director a significant amount, and with alimony, there was nothing left for him to live on. Arnold couldn't bait, started drinking, and descending into despair. He tried to reconcile with the children, but no one, except Karen, wanted to see him. Even his daughter spent only 10 minutes with him and asked to go home to her mom. Arnold hated everyone, but most of all, he hated himself for losing a strong family, destroying everything himself, not appreciating Isabella, and not spending enough time with the children. But there was no turning back. His wife didn't even want to see him. Bernard had a successful operation, and after 3 months, he took his first steps with a crutch. Isabella decided, along with her children, to invite Bernard to live with them during his rehabilitation to help him. Surprisingly, the kids quickly got used to Bernard, became friends with him, and Gerald felt good in this large and friendly family. Bernard and Martin were always busy with some project. Bernard taught the kids wood burning, and they created a beautiful cutting board and a wall painting. When Bernard fully recovered, he taught Jack how to ride a motorcycle. The young man was thrilled as it was his long-awaited dream. So they lived, all together, harmoniously and happily. Isabella liked Bernard, and she had already gotten used to Gerald, considering him as her own. Still, she didn't rush into getting closer due to the betrayal of her husband. Therefore, when Bernard returned home with his son, Isabella wasn't initially against it. She wanted to figure out her feelings. On the first quiet evening without guests, all the family members walked around as if someone was missing. It felt empty. They missed Bernard's words, his tender looks, and his advice, as well as Gerald. Jack couldn't take it and said, "Mom, what if we invite our friends over again this weekend? It's better with them. Uncle Bernard is nice and kind, and Gerald is a good guy too." Isabella was pleased. "I'm not against it. Invite them. I've missed them too." To be honest, Bernard found a new job as a driver for a private company. He gladly accepted the invitation and decided to take a risk. He bought flowers and a beautiful gold ring with gemstones. Right at dinner, in front of the children, he solemnly opened the box and said, "Isabella, kids, we unexpectedly met, but in this short time, we've become so close as a family. I realized I don't want to be separated from you. I'm not a millionaire, but I promise to love and cherish you, to be responsible for our big family. I propose my hand and heart to your mom. I don't know what you'll say, and I'm very nervous, but I hope for the best. Be my wife. Marry me. I love you." Isabella was shocked by the surprise. "Bernard, I feel the same way, but it seems like we're rushing. I recently got divorced. I don't know. What will the kids think? But the kids suddenly clapped their hands and shouted, "Come on, Mom, agree. Hooray. Now Uncle Bernard will live with us." Isabella laughed and replied, "I think I have no choice." "I agree." Bernard hugged her and whispered, "Thank you. I promise you won't regret your decision." After my wife's death, I didn't look at anyone for many years. But when you came into my life, I couldn't resist. I love you, Isabella, more than life itself. You are now my life. And the children too. They started living together. Bernard often picked up Isabella in his work car and brought her and the kids home from school. These rumors, of course, reached Arnold. He was infuriated and drank even more. A couple of times, he ambushed Isabella at the school gates and tried to beg for her forgiveness. "You've forgotten me quickly, Isabella. How many years did we live together? And what? All in vain. Let's start over. Why do you need this unfortunate driver? Are you deliberately getting involved with him to spite me? Huh? Admit it. Trying to upset me." Isabella curtly replied, "Leave and don't disgrace me. You should have thought about the family earlier. If you think that way, you have too high an opinion of yourself. I love Bernard, and he loves me. Leave," Arnold shouted in helpless rage. "You turned the children against me. I want to communicate with them. Understand?" Isabella smirked. "Who's stopping you? Communicate to your heart's content. But it just doesn't work, does it? The kids can't forgive you, and neither can I. Leave. Don't waste my time." At that moment, Bernard's car approached the school gates. He tried not to limp, deliberately walked past Arnold, approached Isabella, took her hand, and kissed her cheek. "Ready to go, my dear. We still need to pick up Karen. Look at what she sent me. Her drawing took first place in the contest. The talent is growing. We spent until midnight framing it yesterday, and it turned out great." And they left without even looking back. Inside, Arnold was torn apart by anger. "Well, look at that. Karen sends her drawings not to me, but to some Bernard. Jack doesn't even greet me, and Martin just keeps quiet. This is the end. No more family for me. What a fool I am." With his first paycheck, Bernard bought the boys a new motorcycle, and the boys were thrilled. They spent hours on end with it. Isabella often thought, "How fickle life is. I thought life was over after the divorce, but it turns out it's just beginning."